started. And I just wanted to thank everybody for coming over, coming out, up, down, whatever you did, to see this, I think, very worthwhile program instead of staying home and watching the Cubs. Now, don't head out the door if you forgot they were on. So, anyway, I'm just going to let you get right to it. So this is Kirsten Velasco, and she's with the Illinois Women in Cannabis. And I got an email from her 3 weeks ago or something. And it's like, you know, we really need to educate people on this. We actually have a couple of kids who, well, one who uses it now. The other one didn't work for her. We have a daughter who has migraine headache. She's been to the biggest clinics in the world, and nothing worked, so she tried the oils, did not help her. So she was pretty disappointed about that. But we have a son who has inoperable brain cancer, and so he's been using the oil for pain management. He was smoking a little bit, but he didn't like the fact that that could make him a little high or whatever, and he likes the oil, and that works. And if it's a really bad day, he uses the oil and a pain med, which knocks it out for him. But most of the time, I think he just uses the oil. So I thought, I've seen it work for my kids. I'm a 60s hippie, but never tried it, believe it or not, and didn't smoke. I didn't do that. My dad would have probably killed me. But now it's such a whole different world, and the fact that they found all these really great uses for it. So I wanted to bring it to people who might be able to benefit from it. So thank you, my dear.
Thank you. That was a wonderful introduction. I'm glad to hear that your son's getting some benefit from that.
We thought he was going to come tonight, but he wasn't feeling real great today.
Exactly. So. You never know. My name is Kirsten Velasco. I'm a medical cannabis patient advocate. I sincerely thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to talk really fast. Cannabis is not the first thing a person usually thinks of when they get sick, so I'm going to cover everything from the science to the application process as quickly as possible. Try to hold your questions until the end. I've tried to make sure all of you have a handout, and I do have that clipboard sign-in sheet. If I do get a legible email, I'll be able to follow up with an application guide that has links to all the forms and information that you'll need.
Can you tell us a little about your background, please?
My background is that I've been studying this for 4 years. Up until then, I am still a hairstylist and master colorist. But I have a niece who'd been searching for alternatives for her lupus, and when she found out that this was going to finally be available, that's all I needed, and I started studying everything about it. So it's like going down a rabbit hole, because when you start to find out things about it, it makes you want to learn more and more. So I can help you become comfortable talking about cannabis just by addressing your natural concerns. And I want everybody to be comfortable talking about it, because when a person finally decides they'd like to try this option, I don't want them to have to face another hurdle of being intimidated or apprehensive, thinking, oh no, what is everybody going to think if I try this medicine? So we'll address your natural concerns. Impairment. Will it cause more car accidents? Is it safe? Has it been researched? Is it addictive? And how is this dosed as a medicine instead of used recreationally? And if it's legal, what are the rules? So let's kick it off right with safety. No one has ever died from an overdose of cannabis, and it's been used as medicine since the beginning of civilization. Even here in the United States, it was used to treat everything from lice to menstrual cramps. And I want you to compare that to just one thing, 52,000 deaths in just 1 year from drug poisoning. And 33,000 of those deaths were from one drug called opioids. I think we're more familiar with the word Vicodin, hydrocodone, OxyContin. And this is where we know that cannabis is going to save so many lives, and it already is, because states that have a functioning medical cannabis program have 25% fewer deaths from opioids. And we're calling it an exit drug because it's lowering people's dependence on those dangerous, addictive opioids. And with that epidemic out there, we don't want to have another addictive substance available. So cannabis is only as addictive as caffeine. So that's a relief to know. And when people get to know cannabis as medicine, it becomes their preference. They are able to use less pharmaceuticals that have a lot of negative side effects. As a matter of fact, when people get to know it, they say that cannabis has positive side effects. They sleep better, they're in a better mood, they're in less pain, so it's easier to engage with family and friends. And so people may have heard of the munchies. So cannabis is known as giving people an appetite. When people get really sick, they can lose their appetite, and if they get it back, it can help them to get the nutrients they so desperately need. 22% of the people in our program right now have never had any experience with cannabis. And anybody who's new to it thinks, am I going to be impaired? Will I be passed out on the couch all day? And they're relieved to learn that cannabis can be formulated to have no psychoactive effect. Most everybody's familiar with THC, but that's only one of over 100 cannabinoids in the plant. And although it's responsible for the psychoactivity, it has a long list of other medical benefits, relieving pain, relaxing muscle spasms, treating nausea. Now there's another cannabinoid that is getting well known or well accepted because it doesn't have the psychoactive effect of THC. CBD has a long list of medical benefits: anti-inflammatory, anti-seizure, anti-anxiety. So you can see that there's many cannabinoids to choose from, and the most important thing to know about this is that when CBD and THC are combined, the patient gets a blend of the medical benefits while maintaining perfect mental clarity. There's a whole nother family of compounds in the plant called terpenes. It gives it their individual different smells. While each of these cannabinoids and terpenes has their own particular medical qualities, we know that when they're mixed in combination, it greatly expands the effects and benefits. We call this the entourage effect. So there's a limitless, infinity combinations or ratios of cannabinoids and terpenes that can be customized to treat so many symptoms. Most healthcare professionals will say, you know what, we just don't have the research. But what they really mean is we don't have a lot of FDA-style, double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical trials. Cannabis has been researched for decades. It started in Israel in the 1960s. The United States funded that research, and now our government owns a patent called cannabinoids as antioxidants and neuroprotectants. Thank goodness for the internet, because anyone can go to pubmed.gov. You get over 20,000 results for a search of cannabinoid. And even though the FDA blocks this traditional type of research, there are a couple organizations that have gotten through the red tape. One of them is GW Pharmaceuticals with its drug called Epidiolex. It's 98% CBD, that non-psychoactive cannabinoid, and it's being used to treat children with the most severe form of seizure disorders. And one other trial, it's using specifically smoked cannabis to treat veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. The most important thing discovered from studying cannabis is the endocannabinoid system. Our bodies naturally create compounds that are almost identical to the cannabinoids in the plant. So the natural cannabinoids that our bodies create are responsible for stabilizing pain signals, neutralizing the chemicals that cause inflammation, and preventing the plaque that causes Alzheimer's. The purpose of the endocannabinoid system is to bring stability and balance to all the systems of the body. So if a person's endocannabinoid system isn't working correctly, it can be assisted with the cannabinoids in the plant. But what does that mean for the patients? I have a handful of examples. For people with Parkinson's, it can calm tremors. For patients with multiple sclerosis, it will relax muscle spasms and relieve pain. For people with Crohn's, which is a inflammatory digestive condition, it gets that inflammation under control. Post-traumatic stress disorder is very closely related to our veterans in our community, but anybody who's been through a traumatic event can have post-traumatic stress disorder. And when they get that anxiety under control, their family, their spouse say, oh, we have that person back again who we knew before that traumatic event. Cancer's been pretty well known to be for cannabis to treat the nausea and pain from traditional cancer treatments, but it's also been seen to kill cancer cells and shrink tumors, and that is my favorite thing to ask people to research when they get home. And there is a little flyer that I handed out. There is a incredible opportunity on November 11th in Oak Brook to see scientists and doctors present their protocols and science for treating cancer with cannabis. Can't wait to see that. I have a few quotes from patients here in Illinois. I'll show you what they've been saying. I'm 27. I have chronic pain from surgeries, fibromyalgia, insomnia, depression, anxiety. I have successfully come off all pharmaceuticals with cannabis. Medical cannabis has given me my life back. Hubby just completed the 60 grams of cannabis oil for terminal metastatic cancer. PET scan today, no evidence of live tumors. I replaced all my dangerous narcotics with cannabis oil. Cannabis oil treats my pain and got me through the withdrawals. It changed my life. I went from being bedridden to walking, gardening, and losing weight. So you can see why so many states have gone through the legislative nightmare to create access to medical cannabis. Our program in Illinois is called a pilot program. It's set to expire in 2020, but what we'll do is we will replace it with a more compassionate law. And I'm going to make it sound simple to get into the program, but it's complex, but we've got all the information and help you'll need to get you in the program. There are about 25,000 people who have managed to get through this process and get their card, with about 1,000 more each month. For a person to participate in our program, they have to be a resident of Illinois and have at least one qualifying condition. Here's that list of qualifying conditions. Now, it'll be hard to read from that distance, but a lot of common ones, some more rare. And I like to point out that we have rheumatoid arthritis, but we don't have osteoarthritis. We do have Crohn's on the list, but we don't have colitis. So there's a provision in the law to have people petition and add their condition to the program, but so far the government hasn't really added any conditions to the program. So if you have one of these conditions on the list, bless you, the very first step is to have a physician's certification. All this is a form, and I have them with me if you want one. It's a form that the physician fills out and sends to the state, and it verifies that the patient has one of those qualifying conditions. Very simple. A lot of doctors don't understand it. We like people to approach their own physicians first, because after the third or fourth person asks, then the physician says, well, I better look into this and find out what's going on. So if there is a person whose physician is not supportive, I have physicians in the area who I can suggest who are typically supportive of the medical cannabis program. So after that form is sent to the state, the next step is the patient application. It can be printed and mailed or made with an online account. The patient will have to provide an ID like a driver's license, a proof of residence like a current utility bill or bank statement, and then a picture, a 2x2 that appears on the card. Then the third step is a digital fingerprint scan. It costs between $50 and $75. There's a state fee. The patient gets to choose a 1, 2, or 3-year card for $100, $200, or $250. Veterans, people on disability, or supplemental security income get half off of that state fee. There are many patients who have mobility problems or transportation issues, and they would like to have a friend or a family member be able to purchase the medicine on their behalf. We call this a caregiver application. They would apply at the same time as the patient and provide pretty much the same documentation, as well as a fee of $25, $50, or $75 for the 1, 2, or 3-year card. Now, there are some exclusions. So no matter what the qualifying condition is, this group of people are excluded from the program. Active duty police officers, firemen, corrections officers, parole officers, people with a commercial driver's license or a permit to drive a school bus. Now you can see when they made the law, they thought, oh, we can't have those people being impaired, but just in the first 10 minutes, you know that this medicine can be used without impairment. So when everybody understands the benefits and safety, then we'll be able to remove that discriminatory exclusion from the law. There are, of course, a few caveats. Veterans do not need the physician certification form. They're able to submit their health records from a VA facility that show their qualifying condition. They will get their 50% discount by providing their DD-214, it's a discharge document, and the people on disability or supplemental security income, they get their discount by providing a statement of current benefits available at socialsecurity.gov. Minors are allowed to participate in our program. We have over 200. They are required to have 2 physician certifications, and one or both of their parents can be their caregiver. It'll take really about 60 days, and you're going to see in my presentation 30 to 45 days. It'll take for a patient to finally receive their card. It's just taking longer. I think more people are applying, and they can still only process about 1,000 each month. So it seems like the wait is getting to be up more in the 60-day period. Each card is designated to one dispensary. The dispensary is where the medicine is purchased, and it's because the state tracks the amount of medicine purchased, which has a standard limit of 2.5 ounces of dried flower every 14 days. Now that dispensary designation can be changed as many times as the patient wants for free. They send an email to the Department of Medical Cannabis. It takes about 24 hours. Then the patient calls the new dispensary and says, hey, am I on your list? When the patients are waiting for their card, we highly recommend that they do a lot of research on the internet. And if you have a Facebook account, definitely join Illinois Medical Cannabis Community. It's a wonderful group where new patients can ask their questions and the other patients share their experiences. It's such a positive and professional and supportive environment. It's a great place to get familiar and comfortable from the privacy of your own home. When a patient finally gets to go into the dispensary to purchase medicine, you kind of wonder, what's that going to be like? Well, these dispensaries have tried to exceed everyone's expectations. They are absolutely beautiful. This is the Clinic Mundelein, and this is Nature's Care in Rolling Meadows. When the patient goes in, they're able to consult in private with a professional dispensary technician or patient care specialist. And at that time, they can still protect their privacy by just listing the symptoms that they would like to treat. And that's enough information to get going with a starting protocol. And now we finally get to talk about the actual dosing of the medicine. Even though I've done my best in the last 10 minutes to build up your confidence in the safety and effectiveness of medical cannabis, if it's not dosed correctly, a patient could have a horrible experience, and it's going to ruin their enthusiasm for tracking and investigating the exact protocols that work for them. So the rule with this is start low, go slow. The very first dose, 0.5 milligram, the patient shouldn't even feel it. It's going to upregulate or stimulate the expression of cell receptors to prepare for the next dose. Then the patient slowly increases that dose until they hit what's called a sweet spot. Now they'll have a balance of CBD and THC, CBD concentrating on inflammation, THC concentrating on typically neurological pain. So when the patient gets up to what's called the sweet spot, they'll know it because when they increase their dose, they won't feel any better. They may even feel worse. Then they'll back off to that sweet spot. This self-led dosing with medical cannabis is where traditional medicine and medical cannabis really diverge. The patient gets to customize their medicine by choosing ratios of cannabinoids and terpenes and combining that with methods of consumption. Smoking is definitely the most well-known method of consuming cannabis, but it can irritate the throat and lungs, and that intense heat destroys most of the medicine. So vaporization is taking its place. Vaporization is when the dried flowers or an oil extracted from those flowers is heated just to a certain temperature to release the medicine into a steam or a vapor to be inhaled. So whether smoked or vaped, Inhalation is a very important method because it allows the medicine to take effect in as little as 30 seconds. And when someone's in pain, every second counts. The first alternative we have to that is oral absorption or sublingual. A tincture or an oil is held in the mouth, and the medicine gets to the bloodstream right through the mucous membrane. It takes about 15 minutes to take effect. The next option is called edibles or ingesting. It can take up to 2 hours for an edible to take effect, but the effects last for 4 to 8 hours, which is double the duration of inhalation or sublingual. So you can see with those combinations, a patient can get real long relief through the night and get some really good sleep. Maybe if that's wearing off in the morning and they need a real quick pain relief, they can take a quick inhalation off of a vape pen. The last method in my list tonight is called topicals. Imagine having a salve or a lotion for localized, almost immediate relief from pain and inflammation. And patients really love this who are the most apprehensive. They're like, wow, that really worked fantastic. What else can this do? So it's a great introduction to the medicine. The patients also love the transdermal patches. They're a very low dose. Sometimes people even cut them into quarters because they find them to be so effective. And they put it on a little vascular area. And that little dose is very discreet, and it gives them a low dose over 8 to 12 hours. And they really like it because they're able to just go about their day and not have to stop to medicate. Now, I've inundated you with a tremendous amount of information, so I just want you to just take a little moment to think if we've addressed your concerns, and I'm going to do a quick review of everything that we've covered: safety, addiction, impairment, entourage effect, research, the endocannabinoid system, the benefits, the rules, the dispensary, and the dosage experienced. So the very most important thing for you to take with you today: cannabis is an anti-inflammatory, treats chronic pain, it's a neuroprotectant, it's hundreds of different medically active components, it's customizable and non-toxic. Now that you've had your first cannabis class, what is your comfort level? Are you curious? Are you comfortable? Are you ready to be an activist? I know that even if you're just still curious, you probably know a group of people who could really benefit from this information, and that just one step closer will be to where everyone is comfortable with cannabis, and then everybody can get the benefits much more easily and quickly. Before we break into question period, I just want to give a shout out to Illinois Women in Cannabis, best not-for-profit in the state. We do patient advocacy, public education, veterans outreach. We do charitable initiatives, and our networking events are the very best because we want everybody to bring their expertise to our industry. Thank you so much for listening to my very fast presentation, and I'm happy to hear your comments and your questions. Thank you. Just take a moment to take a breather. I know I've inundated you with a lot. Is there any questions or comments off the top?
Would this have an effect on somebody using steroids?
We have found that there are no really dangerous negative side effects, especially when cannabis is dosed correctly. What we have found is that because so much cannabis, whether it's illicit or medical cannabis, has been used over the last 20 years, that it has been used alongside so many other medicines, that if there were notable negative side effects, we would know it by now. And what most people find is that they're like, it's helping my medicine work better. They find that, and this is, I feel like I'm kind of out in the rural area with you when I say WD-40, you know what I mean. You're like, well, it kind of helps everything work a little better, right? And so that's what I call the WD-40 of medicines. And what we have found, like I have gone through and I give presentations to medical groups, doctors, social